Welcome to Faith Talks Wood Podcast. I'm Will from Flat Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
And we're a podcast about, well, Jesus and joinery, and we talk about a little bit of everything in between. So, Tom, I have had a busy weekend. Yesterday, we took Eli, he's almost 4 years old, to his first ever swimming lessons. And so we never have lived around anybody with a pool. We took him on vacation once, and there's a pool there, and we swam a little bit. But this was like his first time in a pool, pretty much. And that was an experience. Let me tell you what, he was on me like a koala bear at first. And then the instructor, she'd been doing this for like 30-something years, and there's like 6 or 8 parents and kids, and she like walked us through getting them comfortable. And then we had to drag him out of the pool when it was over because he had so much fun and was loving it so much. And so, it's just one of those things. I told my wife, so, we've got Eli, who'll be 4 in May, and then Olivia, she'll be a year old in March. And I told my wife, I said, I feel like we're officially parents. We're taking a kid to something, right? This is swim lessons, right? And so every Saturday for the next month, we'll be doing swim lessons. And I'm like, we're real parents now. It's like keeping up with the Joneses, right? You gotta do the things. But it felt good to start getting him comfortable with water and making sure that he learns how to swim and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, I'm out of shape, and I was holding him up in the water, and it's just 4 foot of water, or 3 foot of water. And so I'm like kneeling down, not quite on my knees. And I was sore. Let me just tell you, I was whooped. And then we left there, didn't even go home. He was so good. Got some chicken nuggies from Burger King. And then we went up and went shopping, had to run a bunch of errands, and we didn't get home until I think it was like 5 o'clock. And so it was just a long day. And then today got up, go to church. I played drums this morning at church, so was there early. And then sermon went a bit late, and then we had basketball starting at 1. Luckily, I live 5 minutes from the church, so I ran home, changed, went back down to the church, and ref basketball all afternoon, and got home. And I had grand plans to do stuff outside because it was nice out, but I sat my butt down and I just relaxed with the family for a while. So, I'm feeling it. I'm going to get off the podcast tonight and right over there to bed. But, man, how's your week been?
Oh, man, been busy with work. But, and then today we have baptism at my church, and I help out with that. And we had 83 people get baptized today, the most ever.
That's amazing.
It was quite the task. The way we do it at our church here, we have it's a separate. It used to be the sanctuary, and then of course, as the church grew, they built a bigger sanctuary, and then what used to be the sanctuary is turned into a kids sanctuary now. And so what they do is they go in there and set up. It's basically like a swimming pool, like these pop-up swimming pools people put above ground in the backyard, and then they'll have 2 lines coming in, so one pastor on each side, and they just kind of, while one is getting baptized over here, they're getting the next one ready over here, and it's 83 people in an hour. It is, or maybe hour or 15 minutes, something like that. Yeah, it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
Now, does your church do it to where this is kind of planned, like there's people that have been wanting to get baptized and have went through maybe a class or something, and then they get baptized? Okay, cool.
So we do it, I must say, once a quarter, maybe once every 2 months, something like that. It's kind of, so they start letting people know. So if you're interested, and so there's a sign up thing, and then of course a consultation all with the pastoral staff, and then there's always those people that kind of sign up toward the last minute, and so that's where me and some other people come in. We're kind of there because we want to make sure that they have accepted Christ. They understand what they're doing, what it means. And so we just sit down and kind of ask them a few questions. So tell me about when you came to know Jesus. What was that like? What was like before? What's like now? What does getting baptized today mean to you? And so make sure they really understand and that they have had that salvation experience. And yeah, but pretty cool. But yeah, that took up. Then I
Yeah.
went, did some shopping, and then came home. And dude, I've worked so much this week. I took like a 2-hour nap this afternoon. I
Yeah.
was like, yes. So, but
That's awesome. Well, that's good to hear about the baptism. Our church in Tennessee, we did 3 worship nights a year, and they would do an invitation at the worship nights. Now, we went to a mega church, and so there was 10 plus thousand people at the worship night, right? And I was really proud of my church because they started just like baptizing people right there. And then they had, I don't know, revelation or just realized how the right way to do it, I guess. And they started doing baptism services that Sunday after, but before you could get baptized, you had to go through, kind of a mini counseling session to understand, like, hey, this is what baptism is. And because, in a worship night, when got the music and everything, the emotions, and it's good, like the Holy Spirit can work through that. But we have to be careful to not just dunk people for the sake of dunking them, like to make them, allow them to understand, like, when you do this, you're saying the old me is gone, the new me is here, and God used me, and then it's time to get to work. It's time to learn and time to grow, and so yeah, I love to hear that that's what your church does. Our church now, we have a small church. It's you just do baptism whenever it happens, right? Maybe there might be one every couple months or something or whatever's going on, but that's pretty awesome. But man, we've got a guest on the podcast. I'm super excited for this. And, Kyle better than I do. And I'll let you introduce Kyle, and let's get into hear what the Lord's done through him.
yeah. So when I first, honestly, I had not been on Instagram that long, and I had seen a post on somebody's page, and I don't remember the gentleman, but it was about, I think he had gotten a T-shirt or sign or something said "Woodworkers for Christ," and I was like, "Woodworkers for Christ? What's this?" And it got me digging and looking, and that's where I stumbled across Kyle's page, and I've been following him ever since. And he is a phenomenal woodworker and a guy that I can reach out to and ask questions and learn from. And so, without further ado, Kyle Hayden from Haydens Custom Woodworks. Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate that. And you know what, Tom? Thank you also, because you're the first person that said my name correct. Everybody always says like Hayden Woodworks or Hayden. They always just like ad lib something. So you were the first one that said it correctly.
Man, I did something right today. This is a good day.
But yeah, so I established Haydens Custom Woodworks in 2015. I was just starting off like banging 2x4s together in my garage, and well, actually, I didn't have a garage at the time. Shortly thereafter, I did when I bought this house I'm in now, and I just started kind of getting inspired by like I think it was Anna White, like the Shanty 2 Chic websites. So I started off there and let that kind of inspire me, and then it's just morphed into where it is today. But yeah, my name's Kyle Hayden. I'm from Ohio. I lived in North Carolina for 16 years. I'm married. My wife, Jamie. I got 3 kids, Megan, Morgan, and Mason, and our dog, Madison. The M thing was completely unintentional. It just kind of happened that way.
That's awesome. So what part of Ohio are you from?
I'm from a little town called Springfield. It's about 45 minutes west of Columbus.
Yeah. Yeah. The pastor of our church is from Springfield.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Small
that's
world.
Crazy.
Yeah. I was listening to you guys talk about baptism, and yeah, it's we actually had a baptism at our church today. I didn't go to church this morning because I was sitting on my couch chained to my laptop, finishing up my homework. But yeah, it's definitely, I appreciate you guys' sentiment. It's not something to do. It's just like communion, you know, it's like, you're not supposed to take communion if you're not right with God as well. And like baptism is an outward expression for an inward change.
Yep. So I know you said you're from Ohio and now you live in North Carolina. I happen to know you're a veteran. So my assumption is that is why you're in North Carolina and ended up staying there.
Yeah, I got stationed here in 2007, and my AFSC in the Air Force was avionics by trade. I'm an avionics technician on the F-15 Strike Eagle, and we only have a handful of bases we can go to nationwide, or worldwide for that matter. Excuse me. So with certain career fields, say for instance, like finance or services, they have positions, or security forces or firefighters. Well, they have those positions at every single Air Force base nation or worldwide. But with my career field, we can only go to certain bases. I never really joined the Air Force to travel, so I deleted everything off my dream sheet. And lo and behold, I never went anywhere. I got stationed here in 2007, and I've been here ever since. Been here for 16 years. I got out in 16 and then just decided to make like a tree and grow some roots.
Yeah. So that area, Goldsboro, I used to live 45 minutes from there, and I have been down to Seymour Johnson many times, and that's a nice area. I really like it down there.
Well, and with let's not ignore the elephant in the room, with the cost of living. And I mean, the house that I have now, if I tried to buy the property, the land, the house that I have now in the Raleigh area, there's more to do. It's more developed, but my house would probably cost me 3 times as much.
Yep.
So it's just like, I mean, this area is very affordable housing. And likewise, places all around the country with property values just soaring. I didn't stay here out of necessity. I stayed here out of desire. However, it's essential. You could look at it from a necessity standpoint as well, because I couldn't afford to really live anywhere else. But I am where I am, and I'm blessed to be here.
That's kind of like how it is in Nashville. Anywhere that touches Nashville, it's you can't touch it for property value and stuff. And here in Pennsylvania, that's a little bit different. I mean, we paid $200,000 for 25 acres in a 2,000 square foot house, and so, in Tennessee, this would have been a $1.5 million property. So it's definitely a difference. And if you can find a place that you like that has affordable living, that's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, tell us about how you came to know Christ and what your salvation experience was like.
So, I mean, I grew up in church. I can recall being 4 years old, going to the church with my grandmother actually. And, from the time I was little, and then I think I went when I was little, and I mean, I always knew Jesus, knew God. And then around, I'd say like when I was 12, 13, 14, my parents actually started going to church. We went back to the same church, per the request of my grandmother. And so we went there, and then I went to church until, I was in my late teens, early 20s. And then I came to North Carolina, and I didn't go to church for a long time down here in North Carolina. Tom, you know this. It's just North Carolina is a very unique place. Not to speak ill about North Carolina, but there's a lot of if you're not kin to somebody, you're not family, you're a Yankee down here in the South. And you do get that kind of vibe sometimes. And it's not to speak ill about anybody, be negative in any capacity, but you're a little guarded trying to go into a place. And I wish I hadn't had that mentality. But also, I have my own beliefs about the Bible, and I have my own beliefs about Scripture. And a lot of these churches didn't kind of embody what my beliefs of the Bible are. And I don't believe in adding things to the Bible. I don't believe in denominations. I think that we're all one children of God. There's nothing in the Bible that talks about Lutheran and Protestant and Catholic and Baptist and Pentecost. That's nonsense in my opinion. We are all children under God. And when people start dividing the Christian people up and creating all these individual beliefs and they're adding and subtracting from scripture, you're taking away from what God actually told his followers. And so I finally found a church locally here, and it was me and my wife in 2001. And our preacher preaches the way that the Lord intended. He doesn't add to it, doesn't subtract from it. He'll hurt your feelings, but he tells it like it is. It's all in black and white. We all have to read it. And that's so I've been there. We've been going there. It's 902 Church in Kinston, North Carolina. And we have a wonderful pastor. We have a wonderful assistant pastor. And I can say this, like, so in the Bible, it tells us, to engage in relationships, and it tells us to, meet people and, eventually marry and have children, whatnot. I recall being 13, 14 years old at a summer camp, and they would not let the boys and the girls swim together. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, I understand that some people embrace tradition. It's like, that's a nonsense. Like, they made the girls wear clothing over their bathing suits and then still wouldn't let the boys and girls swim together. I'm like, I don't understand this. And that kind of like pushed me away, because I'm like, you're adding to, the scripture doesn't say that. You're adding something in there. You're creating extra rules for us to follow. And that's why I really embrace the church we go to, because it tells it like it is. And there's no extra things in there, like women have to wear dresses or men have to do this or that or the other. So that's pretty much in a nutshell, that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. When my wife and I moved to Tennessee, we found a church that was an expository teaching church, and same thing, man. We went through scripture, and it's gonna hurt your feelings because that's what the Bible says, and we didn't take away from it, didn't add to it. And there's definitely something to that. I know that finding the right place to worship is important. And yeah, I'm with you. I hate the idea of denominations, and denomination equals division. Unfortunately, I understand some of that just because of the Reformation movement and everything that happened, back in way back. And so it's definitely a sticky topic with some people, but man, that's awesome. And so, did you, as a kid, did you get baptized young, or was it when you were later on in life, or like when did that salvation, when did that process start for you?
I was baptized when I was around 13 years old. And that was when, like I said, that's when we went back to the church, and I was heavily involved in the youth group. And it was, I can't recall it. I was actually baptized twice. I was actually baptized in the church sanctuary in a basement. We had like a baptism, but then I still held my faith, but we were just, we had a baptism outside at an actual creek. And I really wanted to be baptized in the creek. So I actually, I got dunked twice. So it was, it was a hot summer day, and we I enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, that's funny. We're part of a church camp. I'm actually one of the board members of the camp. Grew up there, and that's the thing. Like, getting baptized at camp in the river is like, kind of a thing for those who grew up going to camp. And so I get that kind of nostalgia of that. Like, I want to be baptized here, but man, that's awesome. And so, would you say throughout your adult life, after high school, you went to military and stuff, that your faith stuck? Have you had points in your life for where you felt like you kind of fallen away, or how has that been?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, after, my teenage years, and then working in, the civilian world before the military, and then leaving, leaving and going to the military, there's definitely been away from God at certain points in my life, for sure. Like, I think it's the culture that we're embraced in, we're a part of in the military. It is a certain culture, and it definitely has the ability to impact you. And definitely there's some things that, Just some behaviors that I embodied. And like, I'll be honest with you, like and it didn't start out that way. Like, excuse me. Before I joined the Air Force, I never drank alcohol ever. And like joining the military, it's customary to drink, and they promote this environment of binge drinking. And it's just kind of the social atmosphere. And for a lot, I mean, I drank for years. And I'm not saying I sat and drank bottles of alcohol every day, but I'd have my couple of beers in the evening or whatever. But it was just this past summer, and I mean, like, it's weighed on my mind and on my heart so long, and it's just such a habit to quit. And it was actually when I started to get this shop, and when I was really sitting down to do this, and I was still battling the alcohol, battling the health effects, and just battling things. And God's like, look, he's like, if you want this, he's like, you've got to do something for me. And I was like, okay. So I kid you not, I quit drinking. And as soon as I stopped, and I don't know, it's just crazy, because as soon as I stopped, my shop got built. As soon as I listened and did what he told me to do and cut out the alcohol, here comes my shop. He's like, you need to get your head on your shoulders. You need to get your head out of your butt, because I've got bigger plans for you, and you need to be of a free mind to carry out what I want you to do.
Wow. That's awesome.
And it goes a lot deeper than that. But
yeah, I would say the culture of the military, same thing. I picked up some bad habits when I was in, because it's kind of like that's what people did, and same thing with foul language. It's like, why people feel the need that if you're in the military, you have to cuss, but everybody did. And then when you're around it all the time, and that's being fed in your mind. I noticed for a number of years that my language was not what I want it to be. And then I had to battle cutting that. I'm not saying I never slip up and say a cuss word now. I'm not saying that, but I try not to. Whereas it was just kind of like part of the atmosphere. And after work, it was all about having a beer or, but yeah, that's good stuff.
Well, I went to high school with a couple guys that went into the military right out of high school. And the one man just went down the war, and he went to the Marines. And I know they're wild in themselves, right? And I remember him talking about, like, he's like, yeah, I my first tour, he was on a aircraft carrier or boat or something, and he was overseas to where you could drink at 18. And so they'd go into these like Amsterdam or these towns or whatever, and they would just party and party and party. And he ended up getting dishonorably discharged for drugs. And it was like super sad. Like, man, you had so much potential, and this culture, you couldn't handle it, I guess. I don't know.
And it's the culture so easy, because it's so easy to get sucked into, because if you don't follow the norm, then you're a square, and then you're kind of ostracized, and you don't want to be that person. And you kind of, it entices you to kind of follow the crowd as well.
Yep. I would agree. And my first duty station was Bitburg. So in Germany, and, everybody drank beer over there. In fact, it's legal. I can't remember if it's 14 or 16 that their kids are able to drink beer. It's really young. But yeah, I mean, right when I got there, that's probably one of the first things I was invited to do. Like, go down to the local ice rink, which was owned by the local brewery, watch hockey. And then, of course, everybody's drinking beer, and kind of got sucked in it. I never became an alcoholic, but I became a regular drinker. I've never, even in my my time of heavy drinking might not be considered what some people consider heavy drinking, but I would, after work, have 2-3 beers, or maybe 2 or 3 glasses of liquor. But it became a daily thing versus
Yes.
At one point in my life, it was just okay, once a month type thing. And I see nothing wrong with having a drink, but when it becomes a daily, I say a daily habit, like it was with me, and it starts affecting your health and, like you said, your mental clarity and all that. That's where but it is when I was in the Air Force, and after I got out, it was a regular habit thing until, God got hold of me, made some changes. Now I still have a drink here and there, so I'm not putting down that, but the way I was drinking a long time ago was not good, not healthy.
I quit drinking. It was the 13th of August. I remember it as clear as when I'm sitting here talking to you. And in a month and a half, I lost almost 30 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't I would sit down. I'm not going to lie. I would sit down and drink a 6-pack of beer in a night easily. And I mean, I would sit there and it's not like I'm not, I guess I have had a high tolerance. I'm not drunk. I mean, it's just drinking, it's just like water to me at that point. But I mean, it's a relaxing aid, and that's all I used it for.
Yep.
I wasn't in a mind altered state, but I mean, it was still the habit and the act of doing it, and it wasn't maybe a 6-pack every night. Maybe some nights it was 3 or 4 beers, but still,
Yep.
And what my suspicion is like with the advent of breweries and craft beer, what I think that these extra ingredients that they're putting in these beers, I think that we're seeing the summation of all this alcohol consumption. It's not like it was when our parents were little, where it's just light beer. All these extra calories, carbs, and ingredients, I think it's really compounding in people's bodies, and it's really causing these adverse effects that we just don't have enough data on to see how all this, if somebody's drinking regular like I was, how it's really adding up. Because I'm 40 years old, and at this point, my body literally, and it's my body and it's God telling me, look, you got to stop. Like, my body can't tolerate it anymore. I cannot tolerate it at all. Like if I overindulge and I have a hangover, it's painful for days.
Oh, wow.
That's why I had to stop.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah.
I never got into the drinking, which, praise the Lord, because I come from a family of alcoholics. That's probably why I don't drink. But mine was pop, or what we call pop up north, Coke.
Mm-hmm.
I drink Pepsi was my thing in the last couple of years, and I would drink 4 or 5 of them a day, just cans, but nonetheless. And kind of like you, I gave it up Jan 1 this year. I've lost like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Just by stop drinking it, and I could feel myself sleeping better and being more alert and not relying on the caffeine as much. And so, but man, kudos to you for recognizing that and giving it up. And honestly, and I say this as a product of it, is like, you don't want your 3 kids knowing dad for right. I mean, let's be honest. I say that with love, right? Like, you don't want, and so for you to give that up is another testament to God and showing you what it means to be a father and a husband.
Man, it's just, you'd go out to lunch and you'd have that one afternoon beer, and then you're in the hot sun and you just feel this feeling overcome you. And you're like, you just feel so tired and just disgusting and lethargic. And you're looking at your kids and looking at a play, and then you're just this dad that's just immobile and active. And they're like, come do something with me, daddy. And you're just like, I don't feel like it. I don't feel good. It's just like, I tell you what, I hated that feeling. I hated looking at my kids and I felt like I was letting them down and disappointing them. Like, I do not want to be that dad to my children at all.
Amen. So, man, you said you started your woodworking business back in 2007 or 17?
It was like 2000. So I built like my first piece of furniture, I would say. So I've always been around it with my father and everything. I mean, my aunt owned a 500-acre farm in Ohio. And when I was 3 years old, my dad is literally, the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. My dad is the exception to that rule. He is a master of all. And it seems I mean, it's unfitting. It's God, God, it's the story of Job and God trying your faith. The Lord takes what you value the most away from you, it seems sometimes, because now my father's 68 years old battling dementia, and he's just not the man that he once was. But my dad knew a lot of things, and he taught me everything, and I was always in his shadow. And when I was 3 years old, my aunt had a 4,000 square foot farmhouse, and my dad turned it into 2 downstairs and 1 upstairs apartment. I can still vividly remember sitting there building castles in the 2x4 scraps. And over the years, I can't count how many times I've been out there roofing those barns, roofing the houses. And he built my aunt's house that she still lives in today. And then remodeling houses, flipping houses with my father. My dad's a licensed HVAC technician. The same aunt and uncle, they own public laundromats, and I was with my father, because my father, he was their maintenance technician for their industrial washers and dryers. So I'm in the laundromat when 4, 5, 6 years old, going to Sam's Club runs, filling the pop machine with my aunt. And then when my dad's taking the washers and dryers apart, I'm sitting there right beside him. I was homeschooled. I was just an apprentice. I was helping him, learning there, and then just anything and everything over the years, working with my father. And then in 2011, I built my first bed frame. And I mean, Anna White, like I saw this platform bed frame. I'm like, that's awesome. I was like, okay. And I got the completely wrong tools. However, the one tool I did get, I still got the miter saw that I bought then, had it for going on what is it, 13 years now, still works. So then I deployed from 13 to 14, and when you're deployed, there's nothing to do. So just websites and Google. And I saved up my money when I was deployed. And when I got home, I went to Lowe's and bought pretty much the entire basic woodworker starter pack, like the miter saw, not miter saw, circular saw, table saw, Craig jig, and a bunch of 2x4s. And a lot of that furniture I still have. And you got to remember your humble origins. You never forget where you came from, and you're always. How does it say? How does that saying go? Don't forget where you came. Never forget where you came from. You always remember where you're going, or something like that. So I still have all the pine furniture that I built, and it's still in great shape. So it was around the 2020 time frame. I did my highest year in sales, and that was still with soft woods and big box store materials. But then 2021, 2022 hit, and that's when I really made the transition to getting all my new equipment and starting kind of my hardwood journey, and really trying to learn more and really transition into the hardwood, kind of aspect of building furniture. But that was there's a lot that goes along with that, as far as why I left my job, and my time constraints with work and everything before that.
Yeah. So I know you're a student now, but do you just build furniture and everything, whatever kind of because I saw you do a window maybe a couple months ago or something. It was like an arched window. So you just kind of take whatever woodworking project comes along, or
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got a good word of mouth around here. So that's actually a customer. They have a historical home built in the 1800s in downtown Goldsboro. And, they reached out to me before, and they couldn't find a contractor that was willing to do it. And I was on another show, and they asked me what intimidates you? I'm like, everything intimidates me. I was like, if it's not intimidating me, it's not worth doing. I was like, because if it intimidates me, I'm learning. If I'm learning, I'm growing. And if I'm growing, I'm having a good time. And so she approached me about it. I'm like, I have absolutely no idea how to do that. I was like, but I'll figure it out. So I built one for her back in 2000. It was 18, I think. And then she had another one this year. And actually, she's been reaching out to me for a long time, and I actually just couldn't get to it. And I finally was able to get to it. And I did that for her. So I just kind of take what jobs come along. I want to build more large scale furniture, but unfortunately in the market, I'm very hesitant on trying to invest too much and have too much overhead to kind of make large scale projects, because Well, I need to make sure that someone's going to buy it because I don't have the infrastructure to just leave it sitting around. I don't have the room for that. And I don't want to have all that money tied up in something and not have a buyer for it. And also, I really don't want to buy something that somebody's going to, build something and have somebody settle for it. I want to build something custom for somebody they absolutely want to have and they're in love with. It's like, how do the girls say it? If you don't love it in the store, don't buy it, right? Talking about clothing. I don't want like somebody to go window shopping and then pick out something. I want to build them something custom that they absolutely have envisioned in their mind for years.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I don't know how the guys do it that pre-make stuff unless you have a warehouse somewhere or something, because I don't have room to store a piece of furniture. That's why pretty much everything I build is either A, for us, or B, somebody sees something I built from us and they ask me, can I? And my answer is like you just said, yes. I've never done it before, but I can. Let me figure it out.
If you rented a storage unit, and we'll just say it's $100 a month, that's $1,200 a year. Say your profit margin on one piece of furniture is $2,000 or $3,000. Half of that gone. That right there, one project. I'm going to build one project just to pay for that storage unit in a year. Could it be financially feasible? Yeah. Do I really want to give up $1,200 like that? Not really. But hey, scared money don't make money, right? I guess I need to eat my own words there.
Man,
that's awesome. I had a project, I've talked about it before. Somebody came to me at work and they're like, hey, my mom has always wanted a porch swing bed. So a porch swing that holds a twin size mattress. And he's like, you can get it on this site, Magnolia Swings. And he's like, but I really want it built locally and built out of like hardwood that's going to be generational. He's like, can you do it? And I'm like, sure. I had no idea. Like I never built that thing. That thing was, I had a 2-car garage and it took up one whole bay in my garage. I was like, I don't know. But yeah, like you said, scared money don't make me. Like had to invest a lot. It was $1,000 in white oak lumber for that. Right. And, just so much stuff like that. And so, but yeah, man, that's awesome. So you had mentioned about working a corporate job and leaving that and, to where you're at now. You've gotten some, I guess, bigger tools. Like, so what's that journey been like to build out your shop now, and how'd you get there?
So, I was in the Air Force and then I got out of the Air Force in 2016. And I was an industrial maintenance technician at a laminate flooring company in Garner, North Carolina, Mohawk Industries. And here I was, this motivated, energetic, like ambitious kid out of the Air Force, and I'm ready to hit the ground running. And I'm making close to $30 an hour. And I'm like, I get overtime. You mean time and a half? You mean I can make $45 an hour over 40? And I was just like, let's go. I'd be like somebody Jack going into a gym, and I'm working 70 hours a week because I'm just like, hey, E plus R equals O. I live my life by that mentality. Event plus response equals outcome. And it's like, we are all faced with a series of events in life. How you respond to those events determines the outcome of your life. And I'm just like, let's do this. I've worked my butt off for like 3 months straight and bought my wife a car because I knew that the harder I worked, because I'd been busting my hump in the military for I don't know how many years, and I wouldn't get paid a dime more than what my paycheck was. That's what it was. So anyway, dude, it was so hard because here I was motivated, energetic, and like the transition from the military to the civilian lifestyle. It was terrible because, and I mean this with the utmost, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but the civilian world is horrible. People are lazy. Those maintenance technicians, they absolutely hated me. They despised me because I was stealing their thunder and they didn't like it. And I was like, the last time I checked, you ain't writing my paycheck. That man over there is. I don't care if you like it or not. And like, this kind of sums up the mentality there. These guys knew it was illegal to smoke on company property. I knew they were doing it. I'm not stupid. I've got a nose on my face. And they would go smoke and they wouldn't invite me, which I didn't care because, hey, I'm not guilty by association. But they figured I would go and tattle. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell on you. Everybody knows what you're doing. Who cares? I was like, I'm not going to say anything to you. It's not my place to judge you. But, you know, if you get caught, you get caught. At least you don't invite me, because then I don't know what you're doing. But anyway, I'm not trying to ramble on that. So I was there for a year and got laid off, which I was a low man on the totem pole. So they just over manufactured product and had too much inventory sitting in their warehouses. So I said, well, okay, greener pastures elsewhere. So then I went to a pharmaceutical company and did that for 2 years. I was a formulation supervisor, and it was nights and weekends. It was 12-hour shifts. I was 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I was leaving my driveway at 5:30 at night, pulling on my driveway at 8:30 in the morning. I mean, you're talking 14 and a half, 15-hour days. And God woke me up one day. And you know what? It's by the grace of God that I'm sitting here talking with you guys, because I about lost my life one morning driving home. I fell asleep at the wheel, and I'd done it I don't know how many times. I just could not get right. I could not write my sleep schedule. And I was driving home one morning, and I can't tell you how many times it happened. I woke up in the left lane, I'd fallen asleep so many times driving home. I knew how dangerous it was. This morning, I woke up, the wind shear of a semi truck passing me in the left lane, and I was still perfectly centered in the lines of the right lane. And when that happened, I was like, I'm done. I am waiting until, like, as soon as I can get out of here. And I was just waiting for this opportunity to get out of there. And I don't know what I was afraid of. I was just afraid of the unknown. You know, in life, there's 4 zones. There's your fears, there's your comfort zone, then your fear zone, then your learning zone, and your growth zone. And we're all happy in our comfort zone, and we can't see past that fear zone. I couldn't see past that fear zone. The devil was just not letting me. And, you know, God, that one night, it was July 9th of 2019. I remember, just like I'm sitting here talking to you, and I sat down on my cubicle, and I looked at my bulletin board, and I stared at my picture of my kids on the wall, and something came over me, and it's just like, I was like, is this how I want to be a father in their life? And like, at that moment, I was so convicted, and God's like, get up. And I'm like, okay, where am I going? He's like, you're going home. And I'm like, and what am I doing when I get there? And he's like, we'll figure it out together. And I was like, all right. And I'm like, and I sat there, and I thought about that decision and thought about it. And I looked at my other supervisor who was there with me. I'm like, dude, I'm leaving. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I quit. He's like, what? I'm like, I'm leaving. And I was like, I'm done. And he stared at me cross-eyed. So I left, and I called my wife, and I was like, hey, I'm coming home. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, I quit. I'm coming home. She's like, all right, see you when you get home. No resistance. And she's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to use my GI Bill. I'm going to go back to college. So in 2019, in fall of 19, I was sitting in a college classroom as a true freshman at 36 years old. And the one thing that gave me on my woodworking journey was the fact that the Lord blessed me with time. I would have never had the time to establish my woodworking business. I had done it beforehand, like just hobbyist style, but I mean, I didn't have the time to invest into really sharpening my skill set and developing my trade. And also, like, I didn't have the time to put out projects to devote to customers to really make the money that I needed to invest in tools. So I'm working as much as I could, building as much as I could out of whatever material I could get my hands on just to make money. And in 2020 with COVID and all that stuff, I think I did close to $30,000 in sales that year. And that really helped me put a lot of tools and invest in a lot of things for the shop. And then, think about this. I haven't had a job since 2019. And I mean, I've just been hustling with the woodworking, and I haven't, they say, God says, if you put your trust in him and you're doing it for him. And even with my problems that I had, I maintained my faith. I wasn't listening all the time, but I was listening most of the time. And I mean, he's seen a way to get me through the past 5 years without a job, just going to school. I'm using my benefits that I have with the VA, and I've got my little bit of retirement from the Air Force, but for my VA benefits, and then going to school, getting my refunds from school, and just embracing the hustle, but I've learned so much over the past 4 years. Like I can't even begin to quantify and put it into words. Like I know things now that I never thought I would know. And there's so much I need to learn. And I've been trying so hard. And then it was actually like halfway through college, I took a small business and entrepreneurship management class or small business management and entrepreneurship class. And I made a business plan, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Is like, as soon as I graduate college, sorry. As soon as I graduate, I was like, I'm going to build my shop. And I put it in my business plan, and I kind of like drew it all out. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work, but okay. So, it's just me not trusting God and worrying. And, I got to this summer, and we needed to refinance the house anyway from reasons, from the past. And I was like, how could I do this? And I just started looking at it, and I was looking at property values, and the house in my neighborhood was for sale. And it's just like, man, I talked about this and I didn't know how I was going to do it. And God's like, hey, let's get your phone out. And I'm like, what am I looking at? And because like, one of the neighbors' houses was for sale. And I saw what this house was selling for, and I'm like, what's going on? I was like, I had no idea that the housing market around here had inflated so much. And so he's like, now look at your house. And I was like, okay. And I looked at my house and I saw what it was appraising for. And I'm like, no way. So I started talking with my realtor and everything, or the realtor that helped me get the house when I got it, my mortgage agent. And so I bought my house for $150,000 in 2015, and my house was appraising for almost $250,000. I had well over $115,000 in equity in the house, and I had to refinance because I did a 5-year arm on my house. And when the economy was great, my interest rate bottomed out at a 1.75, which was awesome, but it's steadily going back up the past few years. And this summer was going to creep up to a 3.75. And I was like, well, if I don't refinance now and the interest rates don't get any better, this loan's going to cap out at an 8.25. And I was like, I can't do that. So I had to refinance anyway to get a fixed, a better fixed rate. And I was telling the wife all this, and I was looking at the rates, and I was going to lock in at a 5.62. And I looked at the math, and I'm like, man, I was like, my payments were like going to be like $950 a month. And then refinancing, it was going to be like, what was like 10 something, almost $1,100 a month. And I was like, all right, God. So if I take the money out of the house, I was like, what's it going to put my payments at? And he's like, and I had my real mortgage agent run it. And it came out to like $1,494 a month. And I'm like, really? And I looked at the wife. I was like, I guess I'm building a shop. I was like, now's the time. I was like, and I just look at it, and I kind of sound so dumbfounded because I just think about it. It's like God made a way for it to happen for me. Like, I mean, I listened. I didn't know I was listening, but I mean, He made it happen for me, and it's just crazy. But then, like at first, like there was some hiccups with the loan and everything going through because I wasn't working. In my retirement, I was short a little bit of residual income. And that was when I was drinking. And like, that's when God's like, all right, you want this? Do you really want this? And I mean, I had a lot of emotional turmoil going on. And I'm like, yes, I do. He's like, all right, do you really want it? You need to stop what you're doing. I'm like, okay. And I kid you not, like as soon as I stopped, like it wasn't shortly thereafter, like things went through. Like as soon as I listened, like things started to happen. Like that's when we broke ground the day after Labor Day. And yeah. And then, I mean, a month and a half later, I'm moving in.
Wow.
What size shop did you end up building?
It's 18 or 28 by 32.
Okay.
Yeah. It's 28 by 32, got 10-foot ceilings, and 896 square feet.
Yeah.
And it's spotless. I'd come eat my dinner off your shop floors, dude. You got everybody's always asking me, do you make any sawdust? Because I clean up after I do a project. Like as I kind of clean as I go. It drives me crazy to walk around in a mess. And But your shop, it makes my shop look filthy, man.
Oh, I see your shop.
Y'all wouldn't let
That's not true.
y'all wouldn't let your dogs eat off of my shop floor. I do not have a clean shop. It is nope. Someday.
You know, I really, God put me in my place when I first moved into the shop, because I was complaining every day. I was in misery. I was complaining, and he had to put me in my place, because I was like, you let me have this shop, Lord. And I was like, no, just help me get organized. Because every day I'm out here, I was a creature of habit being in my garage, because I knew where everything was. When I'm moving out here to the new shop, and I was setting stuff down left and right. And I'm like, now, where did I put my pencil? Now, where did I put my tape measure? I'm like, now, where did I put my speed square? And I'm just running back and forth across the shop. Like, where am I setting things? I'm just getting frustrated. Like, it took me a good month to really it was a frustrating time, because I'm like trying to be efficient and productive. And I just kept misplacing stuff, because I have a spot for everything. So when I want it, I go right back to where it's supposed to be. And it took me a lot to kind of get into the flow of things, because I just how my mind works. I know where everything is at. It has a very specific spot. I can tell you, I've got a washer from 20 years ago. I can tell you what drawer it's in over there in my little organizer.
That's exactly how I am. I have to have a place for everything. It drives me bonkers. And since we've moved in here, I'm gradually getting my shop to where I want it, but there are still some projects left to be done, and I cannot wait to finish, because it just, when we first moved from North Carolina, I packed everything up in these black and yellow bins like you see it. And when we first got here, I didn't have anywhere to put it. And the whole entire reason why I have that rolling clamp rack from Rockler is because I had all my clamps, with the exception of my big 4-foot clamps, in those bins. And every time I'd have to go dig in a bin to get a clamp and stuff, and it drove me crazy. And they have one of their sales. And at the time, I wasn't in a position where I could come in here and start building out everything. And everything was still under construction on the house. But I had my tools up in the shop, and I told my wife, I was like, this is driving me crazy. I can't get to anything. Every time I want to make something, I got to go dig in a bin for it. And I remember the day that I got that and I put it together, and it was just like a sigh of relief that I could now access something, And when I put my first French cleat panel up and got some tools out of the bins and up to where I had access to them. But yeah, man, but I love how you have everything nice and organized. It's just, first of all, it looks nice. And I feel like I'm more creative when I'm in a space that looks nice,
Well, and so I was reaching out on a North Carolina woodworkers forum, and I was building my desk for my shop. And I think also I saw a negative comment with the windows, how I trimmed them out in walnut. And some guy was like, oh, it must be nice to have scrap walnut laying around. I'm like, scrap walnut? I was like, that was 25 board feet of walnut. That's $250 of material to trim out those windows. I was like, I don't know who's got that kind of money laying around, just scrap material. I was like, what are you talking about? That was good wood. But then this guy was like, why would you put that kind of money in shop furniture? And I'm like, what do you mean, why would I? I was like, if I don't practice building nice stuff for myself, how am I going to build nice stuff for my customers? But I was like, I asked you a question. I was like, if you're working on Wall Street, what are you wearing to work? Some Adidas track pants and a Nike t-shirt? No, you're wearing a $10,000 suit. When a customer comes into my shop, I want them to see nice things so they know the quality they're getting. And I can't tell you how many customers have come in this shop and commented on the windows trimmed out in walnut, on this Pele and white oak or maple and walnut desk, the boom arm, all the things I've done in the shop. Customers take attention to that one as soon as they walk in the shop. And that's the gentleman I just built the honey stands for. He came in here, he's like, as soon as I saw your shop, he's like, I knew you were doing. I'm like, exactly. If I had a bunch of particle board workbenches in here, they're going to take one step in the shop and be like, you ain't the guy for me. I'm out of here.
And I never thought about it that way, because which I don't have that many people come in my shop. The lady that I built the mantle for recently did. But you're right, though. I mean, it's like, because typically when I'm building shop furniture, I'm building out of whatever I've got left over. I'm trying not to spend any money on myself if I can make it out of scraps. But I like your philosophy on that, because that does make good sense.
Well, I mean, I built all the furniture in my house, and you've seen you've seen the loft bed, the spiral staircase I did for my daughters, and my wife's like, "Why are you building that for a 3-year-old's room?" I'm like, "Because I can, because I want to learn something else, because I want to try something I haven't done before, and I can experiment on myself." And like I don't have business attire, but my furniture, my craftsmanship is a representation of me and what I can do and what the gifts that God's given me, and all the stuff I have in my house. I use my house and my shop as my showroom. And my customers come here. I want my customers to be able to see what I do. And if I don't build it for myself, what, you think a tattoo artist just puts a tattoo on somebody's arm without practicing first? I mean, I'd be afraid to sit in that chair, wouldn't you?
Yep. I mean, I build nice stuff for inside my house. I just out my shop. It's always been kind of, I hate to say going the cheap route, but I got a scrap board over there. But I like the idea because that desk you built for your wall over in the corner, that thing looked nice, and it does give it a different feel when you walk in and have nice stuff in your shop, and so.
Hey, that's where I'm sitting right now. It's where my camera's sitting, right here on my desk.
Oh, very cool.
But see, it puts you in that headspace. It gives me that it just gives me that place. Like, this is my desk. It's my place. I can go and sit down and like talk, and I put my laptop here, and I mean, show. It's a lot of things. It's just, I love it.
My shop is a mess, and it's because it's a 1.5 car garage, and my wife and I share a shop, and lots of stuff with that. I get paralysis by analysis. And so if I go out to clean my shop or try to organize stuff, I get more frustrated because I don't have a personality that cares, because I remember where I put stuff. And so like, I know where stuff is. And so for me, that's my problem. Like, I would love, and the times where I have, like in Tennessee, I had a nice size shop there. When I would clean the shop, have everything laid out, to your point, Tom, that's when I was most creative, like having that clean space. But it's one of those things, like, it doesn't bother me to go out there now and there's crap everywhere. It's a organized chaos to me. I know where everything's at. I get to it. But it's something I do want to work on because, I don't know. It's definitely like, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, and that's one of my weaknesses. And that's definitely something that I want to work on and try to get better at. But my problem is that I don't care, right? There's certain things in life I'm passionate about, and organization is not one of them. Never has been. And so it's just like a weird thing for me. It's like, yeah, I'm super easygoing. If something's out of place, it's fine. It doesn't bother me. And it's to the point, like with anything, like I grew up in a pigsty house. And so some people go the opposite route and say, like, I can never live in that. Now, we keep a clean house and my wife is amazing, but I can live in anything. I live in a cardboard box, right? And so that's where, like, I have a hard time with the shop. Like, I want to get it clean, but I want to build more than I want to get it clean. And so I'm just going to start building, and then projects and scraps and stuff starts building up on top of each other. And, well, if you see my shop right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But
I like how did you say that? Paralysis by analysis?
Yeah.
I've never heard that, because that is so true. Because right. I will overthink something until, like, I can't, like, I'll overthink it so much to where I start seeing hieroglyphics about it in my dreams.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the exact same way. Oh my gosh.
I'll walk out there and it's like, okay, I want to start organizing. And you can ask my wife, I'm the worst when it comes to that. And so, like, I'm like, I don't know where to put anything. I don't know what to do with anything. I don't know. And like Tom, I'm cheap. I'm not going to go out. Like, I'd love to build some shop furniture, but I'm not going out and paying $40-$50 a sheet of plywood to build myself something. I'm just too cheap. Like I just yeah, that's fine. It'll stay where it's at. And so I have that yeah, it's that fine line, right? But I want to get better. And my dream is that I'm going to build a shop, and when I start with a clean slate, then I can start, because like with this house, we moved into the garage before we moved into the house. And so everything was in the garage, and I had to build my shop out of the mess.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, the ideal thing for me to get the shop set up the way I want it to is to take everything out of the shop and just empty it out completely and then start from scratch. But I'm not putting my $4,000 table saw out in the driveway. So,
No.
You know what I mean?
Hey, you know what? I've only got a $1,500 Laguna F2, but there's times where I would wheel it out into the driveway when I was in my garage, and it would start raining, and then I'm at a mad panic to wheel it back into my garage.
Yeah.
But no, what you're saying is true. Like, and that's kind of how I've overanalyzed this shop. Like, I was in my garage for 8 years, just dreaming of it, thinking of it over and over. I mean, I laid out this shop in my mind a million times over the past 8 years. And I like what Henry Ford said. Henry Ford's got a quote: "Failure is an opportunity to begin again more intelligently." And, my shop in the garage was fluid, and I had to keep it fluid because I was limited on space. But I knew that when I got into this shop, things were going to be very intentional, and I was going to be very methodical. And that's, like I said, where I was frustrated, because Rome wasn't built in a day. And it's unfortunate because I had to put myself in that mind frame when I was trying to come out here and just like get things done, because I was trying to get my organization. I was working so hard, and things just take time. And I was trying so hard to get it done, because when that gentleman approached me with the display stand, I'm like, I'm not really taking on customers right now, because I'm trying. It's a disservice to you, because I can't give you my best if I'm still trying to organize my space. Like, I need to get my space organized so I'm in the right headspace and the right mindset so that I can give you 100% of me. And it's not right if I'm not. And I felt bad, but I ended up taking the job anyway. And I it was a balancing act. So yeah, I've been very intentional, and that's what I've told everybody. Like, I really wasn't going to compromise. That's why I left all my old cabinets, all my old setups, all my old workbenches. I gave them away to people. I actually gave stuff away, trying to help other people out. And it was actually really cool. Yeah, that was the other night. So I had some old routers and some old jigs and stuff. And I kept trying to give him this one kit, and he just never showed up. I'm like, okay. So I just reached out on Marketplace, and I was like, hey, this stuff's free. And this guy from Raleigh, he actually just graduated seminary school up in Raleigh, and he's a pastor of a church in Raleigh. And he came down, and he's like, I was like, hey, it's all free. I was like, you can have it. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'm trying to help somebody out. I was like, because I see 731 Woodworks video, like how he helps people out. And I'm like, look, man, I was like, I'm blessed. And if you can use this stuff, and if it can help you out, get started, I was like, let's go. I was like, I just want to give it to you so you can, put it to good use.
Yeah, that's awesome. When we were moving from Tennessee back to Pennsylvania, I had to downsize some. I was going from a oversized 2-car garage to a very calling it a 1.5 car garage is very generous, right? And plus, moving and taking a shop 700 miles. I mean, it's just a lot. And so I had this kid. I'd posted. I'd got this router table for almost nothing at this garage sale thing, and I didn't want to take it. It was an old cabinet base that somebody made into a router table, and I just didn't want anything to do with it. And so this kid came fresh into woodworking. You could tell he was ambitious, and I gave him that, and I just started piling his truck. I started giving him I said, hey, you have any of that? No, I don't have that. No. Hey, you want a bandsaw? I had this cheap this Craftsman little 10-inch bandsaw that I gave him bandsaw. I just started giving him stuff. And it's the same thing. I just felt like God was like, hey, you don't need this. You need to thin some stuff out. And so it's a good feeling. What was the I heard a quote Dave Ramsey show about generosity. If you haven't something about if you haven't given, I don't know. Anyway, it's about giving and how, God blesses you through that. But that's good stuff, man. So, Kyle, what do you have going on in the shop now? Like what's on your docket? What you working on? What's in the shop?
So, this is how God works. I'm telling you, it's just so how crazy. Like that's why I'm so appreciative to be on the show, because like I was telling the story to somebody the other day. They're like, dude, you have got to tell that story. And I know I sound so long winded on here, but I'm telling you, like, I can't even begin. I could tell the story 100 times and I could still find different instances of the things that God has done, because like, actually the honey stand, Tom, you saw it. Well, I think you might have seen it if you stalked my page.
Oh,
So the display stand, the honey stand, you know how that came about? That actually came about. A member of my church tagged me in a Facebook, like this guy put out an APB on Facebook looking for a woodworker to build him display stands. A member of my church, I mean, that I know, but I don't really have a relationship with, but he knows that I do woodworking. So he tagged me in it. So I'll kind of give you the backstory. You guys see that I kind of get lost in the weeds with everything I say because my mind's a million places. But so with that said, I did the one display stand for him, and I've got the material for 5 more. That one right there. Yeah. So I've got 5 more of those display stands that I'm building right now. And the guy wants as many as 12 of them. But aside from that, that media center that you probably saw on my Instagram that I designed in SketchUp.
Oh, yeah.
So this lady that was referred to me by the customer with the display stands, she wants me to build that media center. So that's another job. And then I'm also doing a picture frame for her. I'm forgetting something right now. I've got the display stands. Oh, yeah. And then another gentleman came out here today. He wants a dining room table, 2 chairs, which I've never done, which I'm a little nervous about, but I think I got a good handle on those, how I'm going to do it. And then 2 benches, matching benches.
Wow. You're going to be a busy guy, and you're going to school doing your master's and raising 3 kids.
Yeah. Well,
and
I mean,
spending time to take your wife on dates, I hope.
Honestly, we don't go out much, just for some fact that I can trust me. I'm the chef. I'm the cook in the house, and Tom knows.
Oh yeah.
So, man, I tell you what, I can cook a better meal at home than what I can get at restaurants. And not only that, I trust it a little bit more too, but I digress.
Yeah. We go out a couple times a year, usually like for our anniversary, or, my mom every now and then will send us a gift card and tell us, you need to go out to eat, take your wife on a date. It's like, but we feel the same way. It's like, I could cook 5 meals at home that taste better than what I get at the restaurant, for the same amount of money. So I'm a good cook. I love grilling and smoking and everything, but my wife is an amazing cook, and so is my daughter. My daughter's 20, and so we just never go out hardly. Literally maybe 2-3 times a year, something like that.
Well, and the thing is, being in the military, you know how it is, Tom. Like, I don't have any family down here. My wife's from New Jersey. She doesn't have any family down here. We're on our own. And like, people tell us all the time, like, well, your kids are so well behaved. It's like, yep, because they're always with us. Our kids are with us everywhere we go, everything we do. And we almost feel guilty leaving our kids at home with somebody else. Just, our kids are our life, and we want them with us. Our kids, we want them involved in everything we do. So like I can count on both hands, like the times that we've been out in the past, 8 years since our son and our daughters were born.
Yeah. And, it's different now that my daughter's 20, but when my daughter was younger, it was the same thing. We went out, she was with us. Every now and again, like she might be doing a sleepover with a friend, and so we would take advantage of that night. But now it's like we would kill to have a night with our daughter, but all she does is study all the time. She's in the kinesiology program at CMU. She's a senior, and dude, like literally over Christmas holiday, I spent every moment I could with her snowboarding and playing games and things. And now this semester started, she stays midnight every night. So so enjoy that while they're young, man.
I'm a little different. We moved back home, and my in-laws, my wife's parents, are 8 minutes from us. So my kids love their grandma and grandpa, and grandma and grandpa love to have them over. And so, yeah, I mean, Friday night, Eli stayed over there. His cousin, my nephew, was over, so they stayed and had a sleepover. And so I mean, we're a little bit different in that sense that we have the family now. But to your point, we're in Tennessee. For the longest time after having kids, we didn't go on a date, and then we found a babysitter that was phenomenal, and like we would trust her with our life kind of thing. And so we would, but she was one of those. It was expensive. I'll just say that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so, like, I would always tell my wife, like, we were going on a date night, Friday night or something. Well, to get Jenny out to watch the kids is going to be double what the date's going to cost, right? I mean,
my wife and I, we went to see the Top Gun Maverick movie when it came out.
Yeah,
and we got like one of the little the little play date. It's like a drop off like daycare center, but you can pay by the hour. All three of our kids, because we knew they were going to sit through a 2-hour movie. We dropped the kids off at the play date we literally went straight to the movie and straight back. It was like $54 just to like drop the kids off so we could watch a movie. I was like, we should have just waited until this came out on Netflix.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's expensive.
So, oh yeah, it is. It'd be nothing to drop $100 bill on the babysitter for us for just a night out. So, but she was a college kid, needed the money, and we like supporting that. But Tom, what do you got going on in the shop? You get got all those signs done and hung, and what's going on now?
Yeah, I praise God, I finished that job last week. Man, that was a task, but like Kyle said, it's God provides, and that was a big job. A lot of work, but also a nice financial blessing. But so I've got the eye clinic finished, and so this week I have 3 other signs. Tomorrow I actually have a removal, so store is moving from one location to another, so I got to go and remove all the graphics off the storefront glass. So get that done, and then I've got 3 wooden signs to make in the shop. So I'm gonna be a busy bee this week, and then I need to glue up, make the top for my daughter's desk. My daughter's every time she gets home, walks in the shop, she's like, "How's my desk coming?" It's like paying customers first, baby. But I got to get that done. So I'm hoping I can finish that this week in addition to doing all the sign work. But how about you?
Yeah, so I've been working on our sunroom. So we have a sunroom on the back of our house that was an addition put on at some point, years ago, and they had a hot tub in there. And so the sunroom was built around the hot tub. It was all sliding glass doors with a hot tub in the corner. And so we ripped out the hot tub and started framing and removing the sliding glass doors and just framing them in and making it a room. And so I've been working on that, and I got the flooring laid. I got the trim done. Now all I have to do is do the top. And so I could glue up 8-foot long top and go down that route. But we decided to just buy a pre-made, it's like rubber wood or acacia or whatever it is from Lowe's. And so I got the top out in the shop, and I need to cut it the size with the track saw. And then I'm going to do something kind of cool. This is one of those, like, I've never done it, and we're going to see how it's going to go. So there's I built a half wall. It's 30 inches tall, and the countertop is going to sit on the half wall, but it's going to kick out towards one side more to be like a counter space for my wife. That's going to be her artist area. And I have to put 2 legs on the front of it to hold it. the wall will hold one side of it, and I need to do something on the other side. Well, I've got this gorgeous piece of walnut. It's like a 2x3 stick of walnut, and it's like 40 inches long. I'm gonna use a Forstner bit. I'm gonna drill a hole through the table or through the countertop, and then I'm going to, by hand, probably, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I'm going to make a tenon out of the end of that walnut, and I'm going to run it through the bandsaw and put a slice down the middle of it. And then I'm going to, kind of like you would a mallet, I'm going to put that up in there and then wedge it in there. And that'll be the one front leg. That'll be the show leg where you can see. So pretty excited about that. Never done anything like it before. I have been a mallet, so I guess it's kind of similar. So yeah, I'm going to do that. So I got to work on that. I may, depends on how I'm feeling, I may go out to the shop for a little bit and start sanding. Because of how I'm going to do it, I'm going to actually finish the bottom of the countertop, and then the top I'm not going to put finish on until after I put the leg on, because I'm going to put the leg on in the sunroom. So I'll put the leg in, the glue and everything like that, and then flush it with a flush saw, and then sand it, and then put finish on it when it's in there. And so I've got to work on that because that's the last piece to the puzzle to finish that side of the sunroom. And then my wife, so Kyle, my wife is a stained glass artist, so she does stained glass work and stuff like that. She's half my shop is hers. And so she has a big section of my shop, and she does her stained glass. And when she's in big projects, my 6 foot by 4 foot assembly table becomes stained glass. And so half of that sunroom is going to become her studio. And so nice. It kind of works out too, because where the hot tub was is where she will be at, and there's an exhaust fan. And so what I'm going to do, and this isn't going to happen right away, but I'm going to build a shroud around that exhaust fan that comes down to a 4-inch port. I'm going to build a nice little arm where she can have a exhaust hose for soldering right there. And I've got the extra because I bought the Rockler hose, the one that shrinks down to nothing. Mm-hmm. And so my old hose that I have, I can cut that to the right size for her and make a nice little thing. So that's going to be a task. But so yeah, I've got that to work on, and of course, making some finish. My order got messed up, so I'm not going to wait till Tuesday before all my supplies come in to start churning out finish. And tomorrow I meet with a lawyer to do the LLC and make everything official. I've already talked to my accountant and all the stuff we're going to do. And yeah, here this week, as people are listening to this, the website should already be live, and you can buy Willie's Wood Honey from Willie'sWoodFinishes.com. So I'm pretty excited about that. Looking forward to seeing what God's going to do through that. It's I've got a feeling, and so I'm going to be making a lot of finish in my garage. So yeah, other than that, not too much in the shop per se. I did do something. It was kind of goofy. So we live in northwestern Pennsylvania. There's a couple of very prevalent things in northwestern Pennsylvania: snow, Amish, and maple syrup. And so I've always had a desire to make maple syrup just as a hobby, just a thing that you do, right? It's like a nostalgic thing. And so I bought a pack of spiles in a bucket, and I have a hard maple out in the front yard, a big one. And so I tapped it, and like I got all the sap I don't know what to do with. I'm actually probably going to give the sap to a buddy of mine who does it. I just wanted to proof of concept, but yeah, so I eventually in the future going to have a little sugar shack and make some maple syrup with the family. But so that was kind of a fun thing to do. But yeah, other than that, just living the dream, staying busy, man. So, but guys, it is almost 11 o'clock here, and I don't have to work tomorrow, but I am pretty tired. So, hey, all I'm saying is a long weekend, and I'm ready for a good night's sleep. So, but Kyle, where can people find you on Instagram, and if you have a website, and how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Haydens Custom Woodworks. You can also find me on Facebook at Haydens Custom Woodworks. We touched on my Woodworkers for Christ page earlier, so that's actually my Instagram page. And I was actually trying an internship for a roofing company over the summertime, and I got locked out of the account, and I cannot get back into it. And I am trying, because I like to put out just motivational and uplifting content every day. And even if somebody isn't a Christian, it's just like you put out a Bible verse, put out a motivational quote. You never know when somebody needs to see something uplifting. You never know how the smallest gesture can make an impact on their lives. There's still a plethora of content on that page, but I am desperately trying to get back into it. I need to find somebody that knows somebody at like Meta or Instagram or somebody that can help me get access to my account, because I cannot get back into it. But I digress. So I also do have a website, HaydensCustomWoodworks.com. And hopefully I can get back into that Woodworkers for Christ account soon, because I really miss posting content over there, and I'm trying to figure it out. So if anybody knows anything, send me a message and let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your story and how God's using you. And it's exciting to see just a successful woodworker. I mean, and that's the thing. I know a lot of guys are woodworkers and then Instagram guys, right? Or, have a business and then get into the Instagram world. And it's just really cool to see both kind of come together. And so I love seeing your content, man, and just appreciate who you are and how God is working through you, man. So, but well, that's going to be it for this week's podcast. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so on patreon.com/Faith Talks Wood. You can also give us a 5-star review on Apple. It goes a long way. And pray for the podcast. We want to make sure this podcast is edifying to the Lord. And prayer goes a long, long way. So until next week, I'm Will from Flat Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.